just by settling the body and mind, finding our position, our point for meditation. Maybe a couple of deep breaths and deep inhalation, exhalation. Just to empty out the mind, empty out the stale winds, the busyness of the day. So that can be in deep as long as you need. Through the body, through the abdomen, the diaphragm, just and exhalation. Taking a minute just to then settle the mind on the breath. In that space, just allowing whatever intention, motivation that you brought with you to the class to arise in your mind. Checking out what is our motivation and really clarifying them. So many of us have a motivation of kindness, want to develop ourselves, want to become a better person. That's often for some of us, quite spontaneous, maybe we practice kindness a lot in this life, in our past life. But to be able to practice Tantra, this class is about Tantra, introduction to Tantra. To be able to really be qualified, at least partially, to practice Tantra, we need to have a little bit deeper level of motivation. Coming from the point of understanding our mind, what's going on. Understanding that right now we're kind of blocked, limited beings. Not bad because of that, but we're simply limited, and that's, I think, why we come here, because we haven't found our true everlasting peace and happiness. And if we check up, that's the theme of our motivation for everything. Everything we do, behind that is a wish for peace, a wish for happiness, something that goes on and on, And for some of us who've been practicing for some time, we realise that's actually not something easy, to develop an everlasting peace, everlasting happiness. It sounds nice. But we have to understand what Buddhist practice is about, is understanding what blocks that, where our limitations are, how we can move through them. So Dharma practice is about moving through the limitations, moving through mainly karma and delusion, two main causes of our limitation. So how we pivot into Tantra practice is understanding more deeply the presence of these in the mind, how they block our potential, and having a kind of deep inspiration, determination, aspiration to liberate ourselves from those blocks. With the view that we can achieve this everlasting peace and happiness. We can achieve all the qualities that are embodied, even all the way up to Buddhahood. Seems far away, but it's possible when we practice the three principles: renunciation, a sense of wanting to awaken for others, and also touching on having an understanding of the view of emptiness. These three qualify us to enter into Tantra. So I've talked about this the last couple of weeks. So maybe it's a motivation, how wonderful it would be if I, in my heart, in my mind, in my being, develop more and more determination, the first part, to really move through karma and delusion, understand that, and also awaken the wisdom energy that we can through the tantric practice, something more quick, more fast. Our Buddha potential wakes up more quickly with tantric practice. So we're going to start with a couple of prayers that we usually do just to inspire the mind. You can see that?
Not yet.
You can see it online, the prayer?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, good. So we always start with refuge and bodhicitta, affirming our kind of reliance to develop anything in our life. We need a teacher, we need teachings, we need a community of people practicing that gives a lot of inspiration. So just in a simple way, that's what we're doing. And affirming our, bodhicitta motivation to whatever we do, whatever positive practice we put in the mind, may it benefit others. So we imagine, as we see in the image there, Buddha Shakyamuni. We can try and feel his presence, golden radiating light energy, like the sun. Seated in a space before us on a beautiful lotus cushion. And we just recite twice slowly in Tibetan, once in English, to feel that quality of refuge. Wherever you are with that, your understanding of refuge, just allow me to feel it, embody it a little bit in the heart as we chant together. Sangye chodan sogi chona dani kya suchi dagi chen sogi besona droga benji sangye Drugar sho sangye chodan soyi chogna chanju ba du da ni kya suchi 다기 젠소기 베소나기 조라벤지 사게 주바쇼. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit and transmigratory beings. So for those who are interested, this is the... Can you see the prayer there?
Not yet.
It's just a bit slow yet. Taking a moment for the prayer to come up on the screen. There.
Oh, here it comes.
Can you see it?
Which-
Saji Kofi?
You see the hands.
Oh, I see the mudra, but we have a blue screen where the words should be.
Where we have an image.
We have an image of,
Yeah, I don't know why that words aren't coming up and going back and forward, but the image isn't there. It's up on mine. Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay. There now.
oh,
Give it a moment. Oh, good patience practice.
okay.
Okay, while we're waiting, we just try and imagine the mandala. Those of you who know, if we don't know, we're just offering something precious, to receive teachings. We need to be open. So when we practice generosity, it opens us up. So we just imagine offering maybe something precious that you enjoy to the heart of the Buddha. And if we know the mandala, how it looks, then we try and formulate that in our mind. And offer that again to the heart of the Buddha. Again, not that the Buddha needs our offerings, but we need to give to be able to open up and receive. Chobarshogidam Gururapna Mandala Kamneyatayami. Then we imagine, visualize, feel golden light and nectar coming from Shakyamuni Buddha, and just reciting a few of the mantra. Again, Muni meaning sage. So actually to practice Tantra, we need a strong foundation of wisdom. Sage, someone who's a sage, we know has this kind of ancient wisdom, special being. So like that, the Buddha awakened this ancient primordial deep wisdom that we all have, or wisdom nature. It's just hidden. So when we chant mantra, it's waking up that ancient wisdom, allowing it to be more part of us in the present moment right now. Our cleanest, deepest, purest nature. That's what Tantra does. It kind of resonates with that somehow. It's kind of magic, the sound of the syllables. The kind of syllables, how they're put together, the vibration in our body, our being, along with visualizing light and nectar, filling up our whole being, and just waking our mind up, becoming more of a receptacle, more and more, to fill up with the teachings. So this kind of process in the practice of filling up our mind, the container our mind with the teachings, and trying to be able to hold them as well, not just fill up and empty out. It's holding them. So when we awaken this kind of deeper wisdom nature, it's the quality to hold the teachings and the meaning, because it's in the essence of the teachings and the meaning. Chaya Tawar Bine Ma Bine Soha Chaya Tawar Bine Ma Bine Soha Chaya Tawar Bine Mahavenaye Soha Dayamata O Vine Vine Mahavenaye Soha Tayada O Vine Vine Soha Tayada O Vine Vine Mahavenaye Soha. So just come out of the meditation when you're ready. All right, so here. Can everyone see Sutra versus Tantric approach? Yes? Okay. Now, can you see this other? I've got another something up. You don't see that, yeah? Just making sure. That's good. Because that's my notes. I wasn't sure if you were going to see that up there or not. So sorry, we're just checking some tech here, and then I think we're good now. So thank you for your patience there online. So just for those of us who know, yeah, we're doing this as a combination of two centres coming together to offer this class. So I realise there's 2 or 3 people here who are, maybe they're quite new to Buddhism. So this is part of a ongoing class. So I'm hoping that you'll pick something up from it tonight. But we've been going 2 weeks already, so we're sort of in the middle of something. But hopefully, please feel free to ask questions and like that when there's a space, you know. So yeah, so for the last couple of classes, you know, we've been kind of comparing a little bit. So as I mentioned in this meditation, we keep, as Jan and I were saying in the car tonight, just keep pounding the point. It's not just all about Tantra, you know, I'm excited about Tantra, but you know, we can't really practice Tantra very deeply without just a background in Sutra, you know, so a background of, and what are the 3 principles, just to check out, what are the 3 principles of the path that basically constitutes the Lam Rim, the gradual path to enlightenment? What are those 3 principles? Maybe I'm asking somebody in the class. The 3 main...
Relinquishment.
Relinquishment, yes, there's another word for it, but that's good, yeah. I like that.
Renunciation.
Renunciation or relinquishment, yeah, very good, yeah. Next one,
Bodhicitta.
bodhicitta, and
Wisdom.
wisdom. What kind of wisdom?
Understanding.
Wisdom, realizing emptiness, yeah. Very good, Jay. So we need to kind of have a bit of foundation of those, you know. Certainly we can start with some very basic Kriya Tantra practices, and tonight's when I go into a little bit of difference between Kriya and other types of Tantra. But we do need this, we need to keep building that foundation. And the beauty is that when we have a nice kind of solid Tantra practice, then the Sutra and Tantra help each other. You know, the more you develop your Sutra practice, the 3 principles of path, the more it informs your Tantra. The more you have a little bit more connection deep in your tantric practice, that informs the sutra. They both, the idea is they both work and merge together, you know, keep merging them together. We don't want to just focus on one or the other. And that's why in this tradition it takes a bit longer. I'm just like, Tibetan Buddhism is so complicated, you know. And it is at the beginning, you know. It is because we've got all these deities and all these, you know, Lam Rim, you know, all these different points, but it's worth the while, it's worth the wait, it's worth the patience, you know, because actually with Sutra and Tantra together, how many lifetimes can you get enlightened in?
9.
9. Wow, it's true.
Yeah.
9, but minimum they say if you do Sutra and Tantra and you keep your tantric commitments very well, it can be up to 16, it can take 16 lifetimes as compared to when you practice Sutra alone, it can take some countless eons. Right? And that's not to fault Sutra because we need it, but it's just that it doesn't have the skillful methods of Tantra, you know. So and it doesn't fit for everyone to practice Tantra, you know, it's a different psychology. It's a different way of approaching the teachings. So it doesn't always fit for everyone, for sure, you know. So if your path is to practice sutra for many lifetimes, but eventually, as I'm going to talk about tonight, we do at some point have to enter into tantric practice to finish our path. You know, so but that can be when you're a high level bodhisattva, but better if you start sooner. You should get enlightened sooner. You get out of this stuff. You get out of birth, old age, sickness, and death. That's what we're doing here in the Dharma. We're getting out of that. I mean, look, we're all touching. Some of us here, we know all about sickness and old age now, right? You know, so you don't need to teach that to us almost, you know, we know about it. But it's better if you're aware of that from a young age. You're aware of what that means, why we're here, why we experience birth, old age, sickness, and death. What the Buddha taught is because we have the presence of what in the mind? The presence of the two main causes of suffering.
Delusions.
Delusions, jhana, and what's the other one?
Karma.
Karma, contaminated karma. Right? It's a difference because the Buddhas create actions all the time. They're active all the time. Karma means kind of actions. And at a sort of grosser level, it's got different layers of meaning in a way, karma too, but action, the Buddhas are acting for us all the time, you know, enlightened beings, their mind, but they're pure actions. Right now, ours are contaminated by the seed of delusion, you know, so our actions create contamination. Look, what does it say here? The sutra approach, how we view the body. Shantideva, in his beautiful text, The Bodhisattva's Way of Life. If you do not delight, so this is how do you look at, you know, how do we approach the spiritual path from sutra? If you do not delight in a sack of, it's a great quote, isn't it? If you do not delight in a sack of filth, though wrapped in silk and perfume, why delight in this body, a filth thing adorned with ornaments? Right there on them, right there, punch it right in there. Right. Because yeah, we tend to think, you know, when we're young, it's hard. We think, you know, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous. And it doesn't mean that people aren't, you know. But when we really, you just start to peel away a little bit of the skin, you know, just take away that young, youthful skin. And underneath, it's not very pleasant, you know. I mean, people freak out sometimes when they just get a wee cut, you know. It's like, I love it. So look at our body, you know. So this is a sutra approach, working from using kind of this mind of kind of repulsion almost, you know, from renunciation, looking at the view like what do the delusions do to us? They create this. What's in our mind is creating our body. Our body's a reflection of what's going on in our mind. Right? Even when we get angry, we can look kind of not nice, yeah. But our body, this life, the Buddha says, is a reflection of where your mind is right now, you know, your karma of the past life, and also you still have the presence of delusion on the mind, you know. So because we're in a contaminated, where our mind's contaminated, we have a contaminated body. I'm not saying we all accept that totally, that's something we have to meditate on, you know. So what we do here, but we tend to we have a lot of attachment to our body, how we are, we identify very strongly. So from the sutra approach, what we're trying to do is get less attachment. These kind of verses, why they're taught, is to reduce a kind of attachment or a kind of perverse or kind of unrealistic view of the body, right? You know, so we meditate like this. Ideally, you know, it's generally for monastics or kind of practitioners, but it really is for everyone. You know, we have an unrealistic view. The body only gets realistic when you get really old, you know. You know, but we want to get that realistic view young, because even if we're young and gorgeous and shining and all that, we still have a body that's fully all that stuff, you know. We still have to shower. We still have, look, these Buddha bodies, they're made of bliss. They're made of light. They're youthful eternally. Tara never goes beyond the age of 16, kind of thing, you know. This is Tara here. You know, so this is what we want to get. Everybody would like that. I mean, nobody wants to get old. and age and sickness. Nobody wants that, you know. So what's causing that is attachment. The Buddha said, that's one layer. That's just one layer, you know. So a verse like this, from the sutra approach, we try to reduce the attachment from that view by thinking about our attachment to the body and what we really perceive in it, or maybe our attachment to someone else's body, and I really want that person or this person. We just break down what's really going on there with the body. And it does, it kind of puts the mind in a different place when you look at it like a sack of film. You know? You know, so that's kind of the sutra approach. Or, oh, sorry, jumped on there. Sorry, well, there you go. Or the other quote, what is so delightful about food, which tomorrow will be excrement, the wise do not to cling to that which must inevitably be discarded, right? So again, this is the sutra approach. Is this
Lower, yeah,
that's
right
better?
there.
That's better. You can still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you still hear me online? I want to make sure, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're getting there with the tech. Always takes me a wee while. So, yes, you can hear okay. So the sutra approach is this, you know, working with attachment, working with trying to develop a sort of aversion to the thing, you know, like, and really just breaking down the reality, how the situation is, you know, and reducing our attachment, how we cling to the object because we feel like it's more pure or more exalted or in the nature of happiness when it isn't, you know, so that's the sutra approach. So Tantra approach, well, that's quite different, you know. So of course we still need the basis of sutra, as I say, we need to reduce our attachment, we need to reduce the clinging, there's no question, you know. We need to do all that, so we need to practice that in sutra. But then when we move into Tantra, what we're doing here is actually trying to, once we, again, this is really based on having received an initiation, you know, so what we're trying to do there is actually train in a totally different way, what we call impure perception. Training to see our body as the body of the deity. So I talked about this last week, deity yoga. Training to see ourselves like Tara, you know, with the body of Tara, with the body of Chenrezig, with the body of Medicine Buddha. It's all called training in the four purities. Training to see our body, our place, our environment as a pure place, not just like, oh, well, this is my house and it's quite nice, and oh, there's some dirt there and I need to clean up. No, we're trying actually in Tantra to see everything, shift our perception to see our body, not this gross body, not that, but having a body that's pure, having a body that comes out of our wisdom of emptiness. Not just like, I've got this body, I'm just going to plant on top of that the body of the deity. It's not like that. So from the viewpoint of sutra, you know, we try with these meditations to reduce our attachment to the body, to make that less, you know. And then with that place and a bit of understanding of emptiness, so from our understanding of emptiness, our mind, body, citta, we arise from that place as the body of the deity, because the deity's body is only made of, it's a wisdom body. Right? Our body is a delusion body, right? As I said before, again, we're not beating ourselves up here. We're just really trying to see things clean, clear, right? Clean, clean, clear. Right now, our body arises out of delusions. Very good. We have a human body. Excellent, right? But it's not a Buddha body. It's still living. That comes out. So when we do the Sadhana meditation, it's like I talked about last week. What are we trying to do in Tantra? Overcome ordinary appearance and ordinary grasping. The whole sadhana is all about that, right? So why we meditate on the four purities is to kind of, that's what we're doing. We're chipping away ordinary appearance of me and my body. This is who I am, that limited sense of self. So in Tantra, when we take an initiation, actually then, depending on the level of initiation, not a Genan so much, which I'll talk about the differences in the initiation next week. But if we've taken, I know some of us have taken tantric initiations, then we make a commitment to be one with the deity all the time. Right. You know, we make a commitment to try and see our place as a Buddha land, pure, you know, not concrete, solid, in the sense of decaying and getting old and all that, you know, but somehow manifesting our environment, but also manifesting from our wisdom, emptiness, wherever we are with that. All our actions like Buddha actions, you know, so this is the sort of training, you know, so when we sit on the cushion, for example, some of us do even like Tara practice, you know, part of the practice, we imagine that we're a Buddha, we're enlightened all sentient, you know, when we do these practices, we're enlightened all sentient beings, that light goes out from our heart and our body, and we're doing this and that and the next thing, and like that. We try and think like that also in our daily life. I mean, it's great. You're running a center here. You are doing that. For those running the center, you are actually doing that enlightened activities. But of course, it's supposed to come with some understanding and emptiness, you know, myself, the object, the action, everything's kind of got this nature, this blissful quality emptiness. And then the other purity is enjoyments. All our enjoyments, all our drinks and this and everything we try and see as having this pure nature, just like we see in the image here. In a Buddha field, it's like they live in a palace, and the Buddhas, their senses just experience bliss all the time, you know, there's not a separation from that, you know. So even though it's hard for us to feel that, you know, but we try, at least in the process when we're sitting on the cushion, maybe when we bless our food, you know, even in the very beginning, when we do Lama Sangye, we imagine it becomes like nectar. So that's why we have the commitments in Tibetan Buddhism in the beginning. One of our refuge vows is transforming our food into nectar and something blissful, and we offer it to the Buddha, and then we take it. So we try and hold that when we drink it, that's something blissful, you know. So this is all helping to kind of chip away at the ordinary appearance of ourself, you know. So it's chipping from another side, a different direction, you know, ordinary appearance of ourselves just being ordinary and this and that, and ordinary grasping. And what it does is it's kind of as a method to waken up our wisdom nature, you know, because yeah, waking up more subtle levels of consciousness, you know, by kind of doing this all the time. Another way to look at it is seeing as our body is a deity, and everything around us is an aspect, if you have a commitment, tantric commitment, everything is a deity. Sound is mantra, not like, hurt my ear there, which, you know, sound is something pleasing. And all our thoughts, like Dharmakaya, something like that. I'll just leave that at that point. But that's another way, how we're chipping away at this kind of limited view self, seeing ourselves in a pure way. We're trying to awaken. So again, it's mostly after, this kind of happens mostly after we've had kind of some sort of initiation, you know. We're trying to awaken it's like when we, you know, our divine nature, that divinity, that sort of timeless ancient wisdom that's coming in a much more subtle part of ourselves. So I always say sutra sort of chips away at this side and at the analytical side. We need to use analysis and everything like that. Tantra's working on kind of more subtle innate energies, you know, that we have, our psychology, our emotional world, you know, how we perceive ourselves, you know, it's chipping away a different layer of conception that we have ourselves. So if we can do both at the same time, it becomes much more powerful and quicker. As I said last week, it's a resultant path. So we're taking our future experience in enlightenment, what it's going to be like when we're enlightened, and trying to be that now. That's why it's called the resultant path. But you can't just abracadabra that, you know. it has causes. You know, everything, our mind is causative. You know, whatever happiness we experience now, according to the Buddha, happiness, pleasure, pain, joy, laughter, you know, or sadness, grief, depression, that all comes from what we created with our mind in the past. Right? So even though we've heard it many times, that's like one of the most profound teachings, you know, everything comes from our mind. Happiness, sorrow, suffering, all that is just a package that's we've created in the past, and what we experience now is from what we've created in the past. So what we're trying to create now is our future enlightenment. And bringing that more quickly into our experience by kind of trying to visualize, feel, and some level be that now. And of course, we just don't sit and do that. We need a practice to do that. We need the contents of sadhana, daily practice. So whether it's Tara practice or we have another level of practice, but that's what we're doing in tantric practice. That's what we're trying to do. Bring that experience enlightenment up, waken that now. So Dharma means, you know, we talk about Dharma teachings. So one interpretation of Dharma, because, you know, Sanskrit words, they have quite a lot of meaning, you know, different meanings, layers. So one meaning is to hold the mind up from suffering, you know, like we listen to teachings to bring our mind up, you know, to inform our mind is something, it's a different way of thinking, you know, a different way of being, you know, so something like that, you know. So we say the Dharma is something that has to lift the mind up when we practice Dharma, bring it out of suffering, bring it out of discontent, bring it out of limitation. So in this way, Dharma, in terms of Tantra, is lifting us up from our ordinary view of self and ordinary grasping. So those two are the key points I'll probably keep mentioning. It's lifting us up, an ordinary view. Yes, we are deluded, we are this, we are that. We need to know that too. We need to know what is our ordinary view of self, but then to start to step away from that. Because we don't know what our whole ordinary view is. We know I'm this one and that one, and then you know, but we don't have a whole clear view, even in how we perceive ourselves, in a way. So that what we get clear in that on sutra, you know, in the sort of conventional way how we perceive ourselves. Then in Tantra, we're trying to waken up a much more divine, exalted, pure, blissful, wise view of ourselves. You know, we're chipping away at who we think we are and trying to be who we really are. But it still takes causes for that. You know, we can't just. It takes the causes, and that's what tantric practice and sadhana is. It's waking up who we really are in the light of already knowing what our limitations are, but not clinging to them anymore, and waking up this whole other huge part of ourselves that we really are. So that's why we practice the four purities. Eventually we will become a Buddha sometime. Eventually we'll become enlightened because we have that nature, right? It's in us all. We carry it from life to life. It's our Buddha nature we carry from life to life. Our most subtle consciousness, continuity mind, has this capacity to awaken fully. So that's carried for that potential's always with us. It's just a matter of when it's going to awaken. It's a matter of us creating the causes for that. So we try to get a sense of faith that we can actually become this Buddha. We can actually have these pure appearances, pure perception, everything, all phenomena, all beings. So we try and bring that in now and hold that as much as possible. So what that does, when you do practice, it tends to create a space from us feeling so solid and concretely who we are, to create a space for questioning and seeing who we can really become. That's what the beauty of tantric purification, tantric practice. These practices are quite powerful, so they create a space for us to see what the potential of the mind really is. They wake that potential up. Whereas with sutra, it's more about chipping away the problems. Tantra is more about awakening and us being able to feel, wow, what we could really become. Now, we might do a practice for a while and only get a few moments of that. But when you get a moment of that, it's like, wow, you really feel like what your Buddha nature is. And I think some of us have been practicing for a time, we get that, and then back to normal again. Yay! Back to normal again. But this is right, take some time. We have to just keep pushing against a little bit the ordinary view itself, that's very stuck and solid. It's like grime that's covering the purity of Buddha nature. So we have to keep softening, chipping away at that, soften, soften, soften. And then all of a sudden the light comes out and it's like, wow, and then that's sleep. But it's just because we're not familiar with that. We haven't cultivated it a lot over some lifetimes enough. We've done some, but not enough. So this is why we just try and hold that that tantric perspective as much as possible, because it allows to chip away. It's also chipping away at the stuff too, just from a different angle. Next slide. So before we go on that, any questions with that? Comments? Anybody online? Making sense? Getting some nods. Some nods here. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense either. Hopefully you get something from it, yeah. It's a bit like, did I mention the good cop, bad cop last week?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. I'm doing 3 classes, sort of, or sometimes I forget what I mentioned here, but it's like that. Keep that in mind. We've got the bad cop sutra. You've got this and that and attachment, anger, you're self-absorbed, you're all you've got all that side, that feels like I'm drowning here in this already. And then you've got Tantra, it's like so exciting. I can visualize myself as a Buddha and Buddha field and all that. So because we have Buddha nature and it's so beautiful what we can become. And that's, that can very much inspire sutra. Because sutra can feel a little bit like I'm drowning here already with these suffering and all that. So we want the inspiration in Tantra. We need it. We need that innate wisdom nature to open up. And it's only really possible through, of course, our wisdom opens up when we analyze and we reflect on sutra for sure, but combined with Tantra, which is working on more subtle energies, subtle levels of mind, that can really bring it out much more quickly. And then we get really some sort of confidence that's possible. Because it's hard to feel like it's possible to be about Buddha, right? It feels like so far away. And I looked at my teacher, Lama Zopa, and she's like, whoa, that's so far away, But, it's still very far away in a way. But, after 10 years, 20 years, chip away, it's like, okay, I see some of that's possible, especially, basically it's through Sutra and Tantra combined, you just need both, for sure. So just wanted to go over this week, what Tantra isn't by understanding the 4 classes of Tantra. So sometimes there can be misconceptions about what Tantra is, so which I'll touch on as we go through the 4 classes. So so there's 4 classes of Tantra, but generally I'm only going to touch on both of these, 2 of these, Kriya and Hajj Yoga Tantra. Because we don't generally, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there's not a lot of practice of the other 2 tantras. So I thought just to touch on those 2 main ones, because those are the main ones that we use. So Kriya Tantra, Kriya Tantra or Lower Tantra. So that's kind of the first one we touch on, yeah. So what's an example of some Kriya Tantra deities?
Medicine Buddha.
Medicine Buddha. Tara, we have an image of Tara here. Any other one? Even Vajrasattva, single Vajrasattva's Kriya Tantra. So that's the one we kind of start with because it's called the lower tantra, yeah. So that's the one that we want to. How many of us have Kriya Tantra initiation practice? A few of us here, yeah. And definitely some of us online as well, yeah, have Kriya Tantra, quite a few of us. So Kriya Tantra, it's really kind of the other word for it is action tantra. Yeah, because it focuses on kind of it's using outer methods for cleanliness, ritual. You know, some of us have done a noonday before. Noonday, it's like a cleansing purification practice. So there you have the altar and this, and you do prostrations and you make lots of offerings. So it's very much focused on kind of the outer, using outer things and keeping the body clean and everything as clean as possible. And that's easy for us. We're focusing on something outer that's easy for us, you know. So action tantra is very much about that, you know, just starting off with like deities that look less complicated. They don't have many arms and faces to start with. It's not father mother. It's not two deities together, which you often see in High Yoga Tantra because that's a meaning. And so so lower tantra is kind of where we start off with that class of tantra in this tradition. That's usually where, you know, a teacher would advise you to take that class of tantra first because it's much more accessible, much easier. There's less commitments. So usually if you took Kriya Tantra initiation, what else would you have to take with that? What kind of vows? We'd have to take bodhisattva vows, you know, but you're not at that level, not taking the sort of more complex and subtle tantric vows. So we would say at the level of easier practice, and even the methods in there are less intense, like not so difficult visualizations and mantras and complication with the ritual and the different types of offerings you may have to make are more complicated as you move along into High Yoga Tantra. So that because you start, it gives you some confidence when you start Kriya Tantra, yeah, Tara practice, medicine, it feels kind of almost manageable, accessible. So Kriya Tantra, and the benefits of it. So what I found when I first started practicing Tantra, you know, I found, and I was sharing this with Jana tonight, I actually found like for a long time, even though early on I was in Dharamsala, lived in India, I took High Yoga Tantra initiations because I was there and His Holiness was there and everybody's like, oh, you need to take this, it's so precious, you know. So I took it quite early on. But I felt for a long time that the Kriya Tantra practices were more beneficial for me. I could feel them more, you know, I could feel, because they're very much focused on purification. They kind of allow you to strengthen your sort of devotion, your body chitta, and also you feel like they're working for you more. You know, you can feel the sort of quality and essence of the deity. So they really help for, I think, really for us at this level, purifying the mind, along with practicing sutra, the three principles of the path. That combination is very good for quite some time to deepen our three principles and to get a feeling of, well, what is Tantra? You know what it is, and it's not, the sadhana's not too complicated. However, Kriya Tantra, just practicing that will also take a long time to achieve enlightenment. You know, you have to practice that because it doesn't have the skill and method at the higher level of Tantra. So, but it's very important for us, you know, I think for a long time to practice that. And all the lamas do these practices, but they also do it in combination with High Yoga Tantra. But it still would take a long time. So what it creates a cause for mostly is like long life, good future rebirth, and a lot of purification and accumulation of merit. You know, so there are paths in the Kriya Tantra practice that I haven't studied deeply, but generally speaking, it takes also quite a long time at the level of practicing Kriya Tantra. You know, so that's why in this tradition, we move into higher Tantra practice. We also, there's an emphasis to, at some point, when you're ready as a student, a disciple, is to move into the class of High Yoga Tantra. Now, of course, it's not for everyone, you know, that level of high yoga tantra, because some of the deities are quite look quite intense. Sometimes they're naked, they've got fire around them. They've got a lot of arms and legs, and they're like, what's going on there? You know, body parts and all this stuff, you know. So it can take a while, you know, to feel even some connection with that or what's going on there, you know. But again, these are kind of more like skillful methods, working on subtle, much more subtle levels of consciousness. So what we're trying to do there as well in High Yoga Tantra is it's not just based on purification, but it's also based on a kind of developing a type of bliss, a level of consciousness or bliss that's able to realize emptiness more quickly. So whereas, there's my next slide. It's my next slide. I'll move into the next slide actually. Yes. So whereas, I think I mentioned this before, whereas we have in Kriya Tantra mainly, when you develop in that, it touches sort of the method of the skill of visualization touches gross and subtle levels of consciousness. It's not got the ability to reach what we call the very subtle consciousness. That's just not, the method's not there for that in that practice of Kriya Tantra. So this is, from the tantric viewpoint, we're always looking at 3 levels of consciousness that we have. You know, we have our gross consciousness, that we're more or less what's going on right now. Some of you might be in deeper meditation, I don't know, but we have a gross level of consciousness. And that's our ordinary waking and sense-based awareness, it says here, what we typically experience through the senses. And on a grosser level through the mental consciousness or thoughts and, you know, grosser level of thought throughout the day. So we have that. Just see. Yeah. So we have that level. And then we have the second level of consciousness, which we, again, I think I mentioned in the first class, it's not so much tied to the sense. It's when we go into deeper levels of meditation. Now, maybe it might even be hard for some of us to get there right now, but it's certainly, we know that when we meditate, we go a little bit more subtle. We're trying to kind of remove ourselves from the busyness and the conceptuality of the gross consciousness, the grosser consciousness, you know. Still in Lam Rim, we need to meditate, we need to think, you know, but we try and do that in a more subtle way, you know. So even when we do like our Guru Yoga praxis, whatever, it's bringing us into a more subtle space. So we can still think in there, but the meditation's going deeper, you know, we're able to go deeper with our thought processes, and it touches the mind, the consciousness on a deeper level. And then we have the very subtle one, which is very hard to access. Right, that's the one that we call our fundamental clear light nature, our deepest wisdom nature. That one is completely free of gross thought and delusion, which tantric completion practices aim to access. So in High Yoga Tantra, that's the one, that's the goal, to get to that level of consciousness. That is where we want to go, there is that level of consciousness. But we're not going to just jump there right away, you know. But in High Yoga Tantra, because that one is where we can realize the most subtle view of emptiness. And that's also the place where we can achieve full enlightenment from that place. It's the purest part of your being, our primordial, clear light, ancient nature, wisdom. So some people say, "Oh, where are you from? What's your, you know, people in America? I've got Scottish roots. I've got this root. I've got Irish roots. I've got European and Viking roots as well. You know, but from Scotland. But where our roots really are is this fundamental pure nature. That's always been theirs. It's simply hidden because of the presence of karma and delusion in the mind. Because from the tantric viewpoint, we're grasping at an ordinary view self. So we're grasping an ordinary view, an ordinary appearance of ourself. The view that is concrete and solid and that is sort of truly existent, that whole package in there That's what's blocking our wisdom nature, the fundamental wrong view self. So there's a layer of that, and then there's more subtle imprints and ramifications of that we have to remove also in tantric practice to get to the very subtle mind of clear light. So that's what we get. That's what we buy into. That's what we pay for when we go to initiations to get there. Because from there, at that point, and if we know how to meditate, so when we hear about high lamas in this tradition meditating for days, one of my teacher who gave me ordination, one of my teachers, he was a guru of my Lama. So he was a guru of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's our founder, a very high, and even he was a guru of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So that's the caliber of that guru. They were each other's gurus because His Holiness they would take back forward. His Eminence Chogyam Trisham Rinpoche. So I think he was in meditation. So the breathing stopped. He was in meditation for something like 14 to 16 days in the body, still there. So that's where they're meditating on the clear light. That's something they have familiarized themselves with in this life. He's been able to awaken that or get very, very close. Because actually, we're not going to go into it in this class, but when you study Tantra, it's very hard to get into the most subtle, clear light mind. Even in meditation, but the place that you touch it is the death, like it wakes up at the death time, when you go through the death process. But if you've got extremely close to that in life, then very easy at the death time to recognize it. And that's where you can, because basically that mind is free from any kind of delusion, any kind of stain. It's a stainless, pure mind. So it's very easy to realize our nature there, to sit there and recognize the clean, clear nature, emptiness of that mind. We can see now it's very hard to get to emptiness because we've got all this stuff, But there, that's where you can realize emptiness. So for there, that's home for the meditators. They've familiarized themselves with that in their waking life. You read about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He says that he I think in one biography he talks about how he passes away. He meditates on the death process something like 7 or 8 times a day because he goes into those meditations. What happens when I die? All the views, all the visions that appear to the mind, way down to the what he's able to access very deep level of meditation, and there they can recognize the nature of mind. They recognize emptiness. That's like the aha. But you also have to stabilize it. So they can sit in that for many days. Just be there. So that's what we get from the sort of high yoga tantra practices. But you can see you can't just skip from one to the other. So we need a gross consciousness. We even need to transform that. Our thoughts, our beings, our actions, our body, speech, and mind. That needs to be aligned first. Then that slowly we can pivot into the subtle consciousness with deeper levels of meditation, concentration, and wisdom, Kriya Tantra. And then slowly, when the mind's purified that much, then we can sort of move into high yoga tantra practice, accessing more subtle levels of mind. So it's a step-by-step process. We need all of them. So there are moments, some of us might know that, there are moments when we awaken this clear light, moments in our daily life. Sometimes some of you might have heard of that. There's times when that deep nature kind of comes up. Anyone know? Moments when we're doing actions. There's times when we access, even in our daily life, that subtle mind. Anyone know any of the examples? No. Anyone online?
Dreaming when you dream?
You might be getting into a more subtle mind, but it's not the most, it's not quite them. These are kind of ordinary days, ordinary activities. that we do when we can access this. It just comes up very quickly and disappears again. Maybe I'm not clear. So one example is yawning. When we yawn, there's a point when we yawn when it's so tiny though. And I don't know how you yawn. I mean, this is says in the scriptures, I'm not saying from my experience. There's a time when we yawn when a very small, maybe momentary glimpse of that clay-like nature comes, Another one is sneezing.
That's right.
Another one can be falling asleep, but it depends. I'm not sure if it's always the case, but I think there's a time when you slip into it, but then you go back into your dream state mind that's a little bit more gross, But they say there's a time when maybe you just slip and then you go back into a sort of more grosser sleep state mind, but it's still more subtle than a normal consciousness. And another one is in sexual, when, orgasm, so that's another one. And I think that's why sometimes there's this confusion around tantric sex and all this stuff, because people read that and go, wow, let's do that then, but I'm going to explain that a little bit later. That's for, yes, it's true, but that's like when you practice high yoga tantra at the highest level. You can. So this is where I'm going to move into a sort of little bit misconception around Tantra, what we think it is, because we often read one thing here and there and go, wow, I can do that easily. I don't know how to do that, but we can see in these instances of yawning, sneezing, everything, it's so tiny, we're not able to access it, so, but there are moments when it comes out. I thought it doesn't think also when you get a fright. It's like something gives you I don't know, I haven't seen that mentioned, but when you get a fright, it's just like you almost go into a different space, near-death experience. Depending on that type of experience, near death, you can go into a very subtle level of consciousness there. So there are examples when that happens. Oh, I think we got disconnected for a minute. Yeah. We'll just have to wait.
It'll come back on.
I'll come back on.
We can still see you on the screen.
Yeah, it's spinning at the moment.
Oh,
It's just, okay, we're back. All right, are we almost back? Are we back? I don't see their images, but that might be okay.
Can you see us?
We're coming back again.
Can you hear us?
Yes, good.
You can
Yes.
hear us?
Sue, yeah, we can hear you. You can see me? Hear me, see me?
Yes. Good to see you. And if you talk, we
Right.
could hear you.
So, yeah,
Oh.
often,
Oh, it's choppy.
can you hear me, Sue?
It's choppy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're back again. All right, so transforming desire. So I've got this peacock here because traditionally Indian, peacocks eat poison of plants or snakes, and they can sort of transform poison or something poisonous into food, and also it creates these beautiful feathers, So that's why they use this example often in different traditions of the peacock, using peacock feathers to show this power of transformation. So in tantric practice, so normally we would say, desire from the sutra viewpoint, desire creates suffering. It ties us more tightly to samsara and becomes the cause of endless rebirth. So that's what we reflect on and meditate. And of course, that is true, Because of this, the Buddha taught renunciation of morality as the foundation of the path. But for those with the right causes and conditions who are trained well in bodhicitta and the correct view of emptiness, so here we're saying high yoga tantra can show something special. The transformation of desire. What do we sort of mean by that? because you'll often see that. And even in Lama Yeshe's introduction to Tantra, he does talk about how Tantra is kind of using these innate energies and transforming them. So how's that happening?
We don't have anything on our screen. Are you
Nothing?
sharing?
Yes. And also they've left, I think the internet might have went out altogether because there's nobody
We
on
can hear
the.
you and see you. Can
You're
you hear
showing.
us? Can
Oh,
you
you're
hear
still
me?
there.
We can hear you and
Oh,
we
that's
can
true.
see you.
It just stopped sharing. It just stopped sharing. So let's try again.
Can't
Right.
can't see
So
the
I'll try and let me. Where am I? Let's. Sorry, lady. Let's have to do it again. Yeah, because we went in and out. I think it dropped the screen share as well. So we're just going in a little bit here. Why we have to be a wee bit careful with high sugar Tantra, what we mean by the transformation of desire. With strong renunciation, bodhicitta, and a correct understanding of emptiness, trying to use desire only creates more suffering. Without that, sorry, not with it, without it. So yeah, we can't use our desire, so there is this, so ultimately where we're coming from in Tantra is ultimately, even, we're talking about there's a deity called Yamantaka, that's a transformation of anger. Other deities transform desire. So what does that mean? Well, really to be able to practice at that level, this is why Rinpoche says High Yoga Tantra is secret, not because it's mysterious, because it's dangerous if misunderstood. So why we need to practice at the level of renunciation, because first of all, we need to tame desire. We need to tame and purify anger. Right, so because we will read this about the transforming or utilizing anger and desire and these energies, but until we've tamed that, we've purified them, we can't use them, because we don't have control over it. We're controlled by desire. Our anger, we get overwhelmed by our anger. We're not able to manage it. So it's true at the level of sort of higher yoga tantra practices that we can utilize these energies, but until they're tamed within us, we are not able to use them. So that's why we have to have, again, renunciation, bodhicitta, and also understanding that even these energies are empty. But if we don't see their nature as being empty and pure, but we cling at those energies, we utilize them in the wrong way, then it can create more samsara. So I wanted to address that point, because even if it says, through these practice sexual union and all this, but there's no way, until you're at a very high level that you can use these kinds of practices to practice Tantra, So you're talking about high level disciples using that, high level students who are only sort of guided by their guru as well to do those practices when it's the right time. So I just thought it may be important to address that, but at some point, it's definitely true that one can use these energies, these strong energies that we have, because they come from a fundamentally pure place in us, but we're not using them in the right way. We see an object desire and we cling to it, and we put some unrealistic thing on there. We don't see the real nature of that object, because our attachment and our wrong view of self get in the way. So when you practice at the level of Kriya Tantra, we make offerings and we put offerings out and do all these things, but we have to visualize. The whole point is to try and see them as pure, as empty in nature. So generating that kind of experience all the time, even though in this tradition we will use a lot of what we call desire objects, even at level of Kriya Tantra, but the idea is not so yummy, you've got this in the song tonight, I mean, of course it's nice, we enjoy, we're trying to have a blissful experience, but we're trying to always come in the background with some understanding of emptiness and using that to create a sort of blissful experience of the object, of whatever we're doing. So this is where, yes, desire energy comes in, but it has to be purified from our attachment, our wrong view, our wrong clinging to how we experience that. So Yes.
We can't get it from a weekend workshop, huh? Darn it.
No, I mean this Sutra and Tantra class is a lot. It's a long path. It's a long path, you know. But yeah, no, that's when you see a tantric weekend workshop. That's why I just wanted to address that, because you often do see that, you know. So that's a mistaken view. I would certainly, according to Buddhist Tantra, you know, I can't talk for other tantric views, but it's definitely a mistaken view, because from the beginning, to be able to practice anywhere near that, we have to have no attachment. So I was at a retreat with Lamso Rinpoche. It was my last retreat with Rinpoche, group retreat. There was like 500 people there the first 10 days. I think about 350 for the rest of the retreat. It was a tantric retreat. So this particular deity often talks about transforming desire. It's a transformation of desire, you know. But generally, you know, at our level, we don't go into that too much, you know, anyway, because we know that we're not ready for that, you know. But a student did ask Rinpoche, well, how do you transform desire? And Rinpoche said, first of all, you need to abandon it. You know, so that was basically pretty much what Rinpoche said, you know. He didn't want to go much more into that, but he said a couple of other things, but that was the thing I caught, you know. First of all, you need to have abandoned attachment, abandoned desire in your mind. Then you can control bringing it up. You can control the utilization of that at that point, you know. So I found that was a really, really key point to hold on to. Otherwise, it's a bit like giving a child a chainsaw. I mean, it's dangerous, yeah. So like that, those two weekend tantric workshops, it's a bit like giving us guys a chainsaw, you know, just going to damage yourself worse. Unless, of course, one is at the level of, you know, deep renunciation, deep bodhicitta, and a very deep understanding of emptiness, you know. Because there's no way otherwise, you're clinging to that experience. You know, there's no, we can't, we're clinging to that, you know, we don't see the reality of that experience. You know? But yeah, for us, because we're not at that level anyway, and we're talking about an advanced level of tantric practice and high yoga tantra, we're not there. So we don't, doesn't really concern us much right now. But I just wanted to mention that, because really at this level, we're just trying to get familiar with more like the four purities, you know, trying to visualize ourselves a deity, getting a feeling for that, trying to apply emptiness or understanding to emptiness to that visualization, trying to get a feeling for the mantras, because each practice is a mantra. And trying to kind of imagine the offerings, get to grips with the rituals, you know, there's rituals around it as well. So for us, we're just trying to get in touch with that, you know, and using Tantra again, whether it's Kriya Tantra or High Yoga Tantra, using that to just deepen our understanding of emptiness. Deepen what do we mean by renunciation, you know, deepen our kind of feeling of bodhicitta, our love, our commitment to get enlightened for sentient beings, you know, because that's the only reason you visualize yourself as a deity, because you're going to get enlightened for sentient beings, not because I want to be a deity with loads of colours and a nice body. Yeah, of course that's there. We need that. But actually, this deity practice is actually coming. We do it mainly at the level of High Yoga Tantra. We enter into that when we have this deep wish, aspiration to get enlightened for sentient beings, because we see deeply ourselves, where we've come from and where every other being is coming from, you know, where they're coming from, what they're in. And I think this is expressed in the next, what we've got here, next slide. Oh no, that's not there actually. Did I miss a slide? But it'll come. Oh yeah, did you see this slide?
No,
No. Yeah, so I missed that one, sorry. Normally desire only creates, no, we did see that one actually. We did have that one, and we had this one, which understood you. So next one, just to recap, I think that's something else I wanted to say there. Maybe I think that's maybe everything I wanted to say. Yeah, so basically just coming from certainly at the level of, so Kriya Tantra, just to Kriya Tantra, very much about purifying the mind, accumulating merit, getting a feeling, just getting a sense of like visualizing ourselves the deity, mantra, how that impacts the mind, how it awakens our wisdom nature, on some level. So a different level is subtlety, helping us to get more subtle in our experience of emptiness, helping us to get more sensitive when we do like Shinrisic practice, more sensitive to our own suffering, how that manifests in us and how it manifests in other sentient beings, getting a deeper sensitivity to that because we're going in a little bit more subtle level of consciousness. But High Yoga Tantra is very much, we need to really deepen our body chitta there more, because it's more, there's more commitments. We have to take these vows and commitments. The visual and the method is more intense, more extreme. We're going into a more subtle body here, so the body chitta, Rinpoche said to practice High Yoga Tantra, actually, which we need emptiness, but we need strong body chitta, really feeling how important it is to get enlightened for sentient beings. And we also need a certain deeper level of faith and devotion in our spiritual teacher. That's what that requires. That's again why Hajj can be a wee bit more dangerous, because if we don't have the right faith and devotion with the teacher, which takes time, that has to happen organically, it can cause kind of more serious impacts with the practice, So that's why, Hajj Yoga, we need to be a bit more mature to go into the Hajj Yoga Tantra practice. In our experience of the three principles, and also where our relationship, our trust in our spiritual teacher, in their qualities and their ability to be able to guide us. So next slide. So just as a recap, sutra methods purify obscurations and gather the two accumulations gradually. What's the two accumulations? Maybe somebody online? I might be able to see them once. Two
Merit.
accumulations.
Merit,
Wondering if they can.
wisdom,
Oh, merit, yes.
and wisdom.
Sue?
Merit and wisdom.
Merit and wisdom. Method and wisdom. Merit and wisdom. So we need to accumulate them. But they don't deliberately access the very subtle, clear light mind. So that's what we get in Tantra. So also the realization of emptiness occurs at a grosser level of consciousness in Sutra. So that's just a recap of what Lama Tsongkhapa said, what I've been explaining. And Kriya Tantra also a little bit grosser level of consciousness. Still subtle, but not the very subtle consciousness. We're already at 7:20. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Have you personally had glimpses and experiences where you go, oh yeah, this is
I'm halfway
why
enlightened.
I've done the practice,
Mhm.
because it gives you the inspiration to continue and embody it.
I think definitely, I wouldn't be doing it for 25, 30
Yeah.
years, No, definitely, I feel both with Sutra and Tantra, that they're both very precious to practice together. Because, I think I've shared that before. I think I could definitely feel, and then we'll have Kim's questions as well. I mean, just personally, and I think many of my Dharma brothers and sisters, some of us have been practicing for some time. Sutra, I love the Lamrim path. You kind of have to fall in love with your practice, Otherwise, it's just a burden, It's just like, oh, I need to go and sit in the cushion. So you have to sort of fall in love with your practice. And many of us love or admire or appreciate that level of love. It resonates with us. I felt a connection with mantra, even, my first classes when the teachers were reciting, "Oh, Manny, bring me home," and I just thought, I love that. It sort of wakened something up in me. I felt like there was something waking up when I recited those mantras. And so I feel very much like doing both of those together brings experiences for sure. And there's definitely moments that we've all felt, well, wow, was that an experience of emptiness? I mean, it wasn't an experience of emptiness, but you get some experiences of the nature of your mind. That the mind, I think Tantra gives a lot of hope that you can clean out the mind of all the stuff. You can get beyond yourself. You can get beyond who you think you are now to something much deeper and much broader, much expansive, much more blissful, much more happy. And I think for those who have been practicing, we definitely have moments and experiences of that. The challenge is to get them stable. That takes more time. That's why people go into long retreats. That's why even some life. In meditation and practice, we've always been here. We've always had some level of contamination.
We lost you.
So when we think about, it sounds like, 25 years, that's a lot. But you think about, we've been here for lifetimes, it's not much. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, out of that practice, that 25 years in his previous life, he did so much in this life. Started 100 centres, 100 plus centres, not just our organisation, many organisations. He guided so many, I mean, all of us, most of us, many of us Healy students touched by, not just touched, guided very specifically with his wisdom, his ability, his quality, So that's inspiring to see that, So I think it's not much 25 years when you look at the whole period of time, what that can then do to someone to benefit in the next life, So yeah, I hope that answers your question, but
in hearing, there could be confusion of phenomena, imagining phenomena, and it to be more escapism. And
you're right.
And how, through Guru, you could help discern that. Is there a way that you just that yourself?
You have to practice this. You can't just jump into Tantra and visualize yourself as deities. It's not happening, That's escapism.
Yeah.
That's why, and for this class, I can't, we're not going to go through the 3 principles, but these deities come from wisdom realizing emptiness. They come from a very deep innate wisdom that needs to be cultivated. That in some level from Tantra is already there, present in us all the time. That's our nature, but we haven't recognized it. But from this point of sutra, we need to chip away at the other stuff before we get there. So we're trying to go both directions. So yeah, there's no, without first of all having, some understanding in the 3 principles of the path. We've just went out again. I believe. I'm still there. Yeah.
You're in and out, but can you hear us? Well, now you're frozen.
We lost you, Angie.
She can hear us, I guess. Can you hear me, Mary?
Yes.
I can hear you guys, but I can't see or hear Angie.
She'll be back, hopefully.
I think it's answering their questions similar to
But
that.
Now we
other
can
one.
hear you, Angie. We lost you, but now we can hear you. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's getting remote.
Turn your audio off again.
My audio. Oh yeah. Okay. Now it's okay. Okay. It's okay.
Is your audio off?
Which one, the computer or the Zoom?
Your computer.
Okay, now. And then my audio on for the Zoom.
No, leave it off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Can you hear me? No, they're not.
They seem frozen.
It's frozen. It's back out again.
We
You're
can hear
still
you
there on our
fine.
screen.
I don't know if you're there. We can hear you. We can hear you.
They'd be frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
You might want to put your microphone on so we can hear you.
Okay, that works.
That has nothing to do with
Yeah.
the Zoom.
Okay. So
We can
to
hear
answer
you.
your question, again, something similar. So we don't kind of space out the Tantra. We have to understand renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, what that is as a foundation. That's like the earth, and then we can create and work with Tantra on that basis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we might have to finish there. We're jumping around too much. I did want to address Kim's question, but Kim?
Well, I was really
Kim?
curious. I was really curious about that last slide.
Turn your audio off. Lee.
Okay, let me see if I can share it again. This one.
Turn your audio off.
This one.
Turn your audio off.
I'm gonna laugh at some point.
I think maybe I'll email you the question.
Yes, let's email me, Kim. That would be great.
Turn the audio off on your computer.
I think I'm losing the track now. Turn the audio, which one? Turn the audio off on my computer. Sorry,
Yes.
John.
Okay. Now they should be able to hear you.
Okay, are they there now? They can hear me and then they go. Right, Kim, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yay! Okay, let's just try and do one more question and then we'll finish.
Okay, one more slide, please. It was not this one.
Oh, it's the one before. This one?
That one. So isn't that if I understood it correctly, that's very interesting because emptiness is about non-conceptual, like non-conceptual thought, which kind of doesn't make sense, but it's very interesting that occurs at your coarser levels of consciousness. Am I understanding that correctly?
So this is a point that I'm going to cover actually next week, Kim, because I said last time we did the class, didn't we agree that the emptiness that we realize is the same? Yeah, from Sutra and Tantra.
Oh, sorry, you're cutting in and out. I didn't quite catch it.
Yes, surprise. So next week we're going to go over what does that mean, I was going to get to it this week, but we didn't manage there. But I'm going to talk about that next week, Kim. I wondered if anyone would touch on that, because we were actually going into it in the next slide, but we've run out of time. So what do we mean by, what does that statement really mean in terms of sutra and at the level of high yoga tantra? What are we doing in high yoga tantra that's a little bit different from the sutra experience of emptiness? There is a bit of difference. So we're going to talk about that next week. I think we'll give up this week.
Well,
Not give up, but we'll just have a break now.
that'll be tantalizing to get us back next week. Very good.
Because that's a good question and an interesting topic, and that's what kind of highlights the speciality high yoga tantra, that part there, you know, which we'll talk about next week when we go into the Buddha bodies, the different Buddha bodies, the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. What does that mean? What do they mean in terms of this kind of experience of emptiness?
So, Angie, can you hear me? She's frozen again.
Yeah, looks like.
David, I think she is open to email questions, I would think. There was a question about if she's open to email questions.
What would her email be?
I can check with her. Do I have your email?
Yeah, we have David's email.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
that'd
check
be,
with her and get back to you.
okay. I appreciate that, Sue and Kim.
You bet.
Well, maybe we should just do the Jangtube Senchon Rinpoche ourselves. You want to do it in English?
Either way.
We can do both.
May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not to come, but increase.
Okay, there we are. They're doing it themselves.
Oh, there we go. Angie, you're back.
May the precious view of emptiness not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Samsara, nirvana, like even an atom of inherent existence, and cause and effect, independent arising or unbetraying. I seek your blessings there in the meaning of Nagarjuna's thought that these two are mutually complementary and not contradictory. We'll just dedicate for his holiness' long life. Do you see this up there?
No.
Oh, I have got it shared, but it's not coming up there. Sorry. Okay, let's just take a moment to just dedicate for us, each one of us, develop as much as possible, the awakening mind, the bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness. So what pleases the teacher most, what creates a long life most of our teachers, is us practicing their advice, their instructions, as much as we can in the best way we can. So may our practice of listening, reflecting, meditating tonight also create the cause, especially for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live through the blessing through Palden Lamo, his main deity, saying that he's having he's only some sort of vision that he feels confidence that he can live that long. So we also dedicate the merits of our class to that. Danri rawe gorwe shingam dir bendan dewa malu jungwe ne chenre ze wan denzen gyatso ye shape site bardu dengur chi. Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. So that was an interesting class.
Thank you, Angie. It's a great class. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Nice to see you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, Angie.
Would you like me to send the PowerPoint for this week? Maybe that's helpful. Some of you didn't get it.
Yeah, that
Oh,
would be
yes.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll
And
send
there's
that because it was going in and out a lot. So at least you can see some of the headings, that we went through in case you didn't get it. So I'll send that in the next day or two so you can maybe look over that for
Venerable Angie, there's
what time next week.
a question in the chat if somebody can send you an email, and maybe if you're open to that, you could put your email address in the chat.
Oh, okay. I'll put my email address there, and if whoever's got the question can send me an email, that's fine.